Hello, boys and girls. This is Old Man Yells at Cloud. Clouds? I think it's Cloud. Working for my Patreon Blue Powder Monkeys, doing a Watch Me Work. This is going to be more of a watch work and even less of commentary than normal. I'm working on icons for the Traveler RPG that I've talked about, so it's more of that. I'm going to potentially walk through a couple of things as I'm doing it. For the most part, though, it's just kind of watching the creative process. So I originally worked on this set in one of our other videos, which was basically skills. So we had these sort of base boxes, and then I had created some little red outline squares, some little green outline squares for the different skills. And then you had aircraft, for example, which was sort of a variant on the generic military tag that I had. And then I'd added all the little icon things. Anyway, so you can find that video 2 or 3 weeks back, whatever it is. The game that I'm designing, the system that I'm designing, has tags, as a lot of games do. And I have recently increased the importance of tags and the interactivity of tags, I guess. Before they were around for sure, but I was a little unclear on things, and this is what happens when you don't do outlining or pre-planning stuff, or don't do as much as you should. You end up getting to redo things. So I'm going to end up getting to redo things a little bit, but I just hadn't kind of wrapped my head around the way that I was going to use tags, and now I have. So I created a new document called Tags, version 2, and that was built the same way. There is a background layer here. These bright green areas are measuring sticks, basically. So when I originally created this document, I created 8 artboards, and then partway through I decided to create more artboards, and it's possible that I will decide to create even more artboards after that. So the illustrator, when I created the 8, arbitrarily chose this distance, which I'm guessing is probably in the preferences somewhere. It created this distance in between the little things, and then when I copied to make more artboards, I needed precise measurement because it wasn't the smart stuff wasn't aligning the smart little guides, which they don't sometimes. Hello there, boys and girls. This is editor Old Man Yells at Cloud from my Patreon Blue Powder Monkeys, and as always, when I'm doing a video, sometimes I get a little lazy and don't do the research. So when I get editing mode, then sometimes I do the research. So we were talking about rearranging artboards and being able to kind of dictate how much space is in between them. So I'm going to show you that right now. So basically, I'm going to open up a new file. I'm going to use this little custom thing for now. I'm going to say that there's 2 artboards I'm going to create. And there you go. So you got your 2 artboards, and then you're like, I need more artboards. So you go up here to edit, document setup, edit artboards. You do the old alt drag, and you decide to make some new artboards, but you're sloppy. You're like, that's fine, whatever. Then later on, you're like, wait a second, I'm a creature of organization. I want these things to all be kind of lined up in the right way. So, object, artboards, rearrange artboards. It's right there. So it can, I can go this direction, I can go this direction, I can do this layout order, columns wise too. I have 6 here, so I think I'm going to go 3 columns, and then the spacing I'm just going to leave. Let's just change it for fun. I'll go 25. I want them 25 pixels apart for whatever reason. Little checkbox for move artwork. I don't have artwork on these, but I assume this moves the artwork that's attached to your artboards. And then you go OK. You get this weird little thing here that I guess you can kind of just move around where you want. But all you got to do is just click Boom. And look at that. There's my 6 boards, 25 pixels across. So I don't need my fanciful little lime green spacers anymore. I can do this the way that Illustrator intended. Back to the video. And then I created the green outlines as normal, which I think are the same color as these. Let's find out. I was using my same little retro palette that I was using. So those look pretty close, right? Oh, no, they're darker. So I'm using the darker green now. That's cool. And then I made the line a little bit thicker. Then I have the red ones, which are definitely more bright red, because they weren't basically standing apart as much as I would have liked them to. Those are kind of bright as well, but they're thinner, I guess. Boink. So yeah, those are pretty red. The red ones indicate tags like military, restricted things, that kind of thing. And the gold is for miscellaneous stuff. Anyway, those little green things are kind of obnoxious, aren't they? Yeah. Oops. Let's do that. Let's pull them out of here. Put them right there. And now they're buried. Awesome. So then I'll show you the system of tags. I had to create a spreadsheet because that's what you do. So these are the tags that I sort of have come up with for the game system, and sort of an informal, or actually more formal, hierarchy of things. So there's sectors in the games which are kind of the business sectors that things take place in: citizen, geopolitical, infrastructure, and technology. Then there are 7 corporations that kind of rule the universe, and they are all generically named after the things they provide. And then there are careers that the players can engage in when they create characters. Then here are skills and a generic tag list that don't have a specific... They're sort of a subcategory of one of these other ones, I guess, but just kind of they don't appear in any other thing but a tag. The bolded skills, I guess I don't have a thing up here saying skill list, but this is basically the skill list, which you can see a expanded version over here. The bolded skills, oh, nice. All right, thank you, Acrobat, are kind of official tags. You could technically say that like combat or athletics could be a tag, but for function, and we're not going to get into the details of this kind of functionality. I might do a separate thing for that, of the game functionality. But the ones that are bolded are like quote-unquote official tags. So then these science and trade skills, all of the normal skills have, and you've seen that from the icons I've been creating, have 3 doodads here. Sub-skills, specialty skills, basically. Combat has more. Science and trade have more. So your trade skills match a combination of corporate and sector. And so this is for my own purposes kind of color-coded. You can see citizen being this kind of ochre color, I guess. That came from the sector list. Energy comes from the corporate list. Food comes from the corporate list. Industrial comes from the generic list right there. Leisure from corporate over here. Manufacture generic, and transport corporate. So these are the types of... There we go. These are the types of... you can get trade as this, athletics, parentheses, dexterity, animals, parentheses, exofauna, trade, parentheses, citizen. The top row are your trade skills. In science, this top row are the science skills. There are 16 of those, I guess. 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 16 of those. Then the stuff underneath are tags that apply to the skill. So there's going to be that over here somewhat, but some are sort of built in. Like bureaucracy has a subskill of civil, corporate, and government. In reality, this is civilian now, and it's already covered. And corporate is a tag over here. So if I was to do the skills list the same way, this is just for reference over here, but if I was to do all the skills the same way I'm doing these two, civilian would be here, that's citizen. Civilian would be here, corporate would be also blue, and governmental would also be blue. You might be asking the difference between citizen and civilian. Citizens can vote. It's very Starship Troopers of me. But in the sort of dystopian future that we've set up, voting being more of a privilege as opposed to a right, as it's supposed to be now. So, I'm not liking the way that Adobe PDFing is interacting with my tablet right now, or at all. So, anyway. So, that's the difference between those two. So, in science, we have these agricultural biology comes from the generic tag list. Exobiology comes... Oh, that's a sub one, never mind. I think that's the only one. Oh, economics is a skill. So, that's coming over here. Anyway, so you can kind of get the kind of gist of the way things go. These little italic ones only appear for this skill, right? So, if you take science, parentheses, bioengineering, you'll technically have the cybernetics tag on your character, but right now that tag doesn't do anything. And then these little parentheses are for sub-skills for up here, right? So like if you have trade energy, then you sort of have the tags for chemistry and geology, science skills. How that works in the game is it creates interactivity. You're able to help people that have those type of skills. So if I have trade energy, I could theoretically help someone who has science chemistry do a task, or science geology do a task. I'm going to figure out as we get deeper into it what direction that arrow goes. Because right now chemistry does have energy, and people with a chemistry background should be able to help someone with sort of an energy background. But I don't know that someone with an energy background would automatically be able to help someone with a chemistry background, as chemistry technically covers a wider range of stuff. So I'll have to figure that out, whether these not all of the arrows will go both directions for sure. Some of them will just only point at one thing. Research has the universal tag, which is the only thing that does, meaning that if you have science research, you can theoretically help out any other skill to do something, because research is kind of universal. That's the way that works. So that's a bunch of game nonsense to explain what I'm doing graphically here. I realized that while this spreadsheet, this document that I have works well for skills, pilot skill, pilot civilian, pilot stellar, I want to say, and then military. Guess I should label these things. I need another layer. I need to not necessarily redo these, but it would be nice to have another sort of layer of things that when a player had one of these icons on something, they could at a glance visually kind of figure out what direction things are going. So I created, first of all, the corporate tags. Oh, this is a mess. That's a mess too. All right. So let's clear off some of this junk. I guess it doesn't matter because there's only 7 corporations. These are the 7 corporations which you saw on that other list of energy, food, housing, transportation, transport, leisure, robots, and space. And is it space? Yeah, it is space. I've just realized that these are out of order. So, transport, I don't know if this is worth, I'm being very meticulous this time around. So housing, and then alphabetically leisure. Leisure goes here. And I'm just doing a little alignment thing. Again, for those of you watching for the millionth time or the first time, I don't have the little spotlight around my mouse pointer, which that's on me. Sorry about that. That one should be balanced already based on the little smart guides, but I don't trust the smart guides. Yeah, see, that's why I don't trust smart guides. All right, so one of the things I did is I did this second wave. For for those of you that will watch or have watched the other videos, I can be precise and I can be less precise. And this time around, I decided to be more precise. So These being kind of these corporate tags being derivative tags. There would be a skill behind it, and then maybe this corporate thing in the middle. They're all sized to fit within, I believe, 225? Yeah, 225 pixels square. Even this one, 225 high, 145 width. I'm not going to make it arbitrarily kind of bent in, but you know, this one, let's group those, Control G. So that one, 225, right? So they're all sort of fit in this specific, even that one's 225 both ways, I think, actually. Because they're going to interact with icons that could potentially be behind them or in front of them or whatever, for now, any of this black that you see in any of these are cutouts, but I also have the non-cutout version in case I want to layer things and have this on top this way, but have it over the top of something else, or it's just basically flexibility for layering. Maybe I don't want to see through. This is a window right now, right? So you can see, right? And so maybe I don't want to have that. Maybe I want to have that black part just be actually obscured on an object behind it. So that's why I did that. And then I took these little things to measure my little measuring cubes so that these two distances are the same. I believe this distance is double that, I'm pretty sure. And then, again with the cutouts, so these are cut out and this is cut out, but here are the solid versions in case I need to layer. That goes down there. All right, so those are the 7 corporations. Then we got into those sector tags, those 4 sectors. So the sector is citizen, geopolitical, infrastructure, interesting, and technology. I'm not sure. I must have thought I was doing geopolitical twice, maybe, because this feels more geopolitical to me. But this is the corporate thing, and infrastructure. That might be my first task right now, is to figure out what a shorthand thing for infrastructure will be. But I've created a full version of these at the skill size that you saw before, which is 350, yeah. And then these are the 225s. And then down here last night, I was trying to mess around with sort of cutting them, corners out of them, quartering them, and combining them so that I could grab that and come down and build like a Frankensteinian all 4 symbols as one kind of thing, just for fun, or mix and match, I don't know. But that wasn't working at all, so that was completely not good. The infrastructure thing I don't like. So the first thing I do is I come over here to the skills, and I kind of go through, you know, just to, like, do any of these, are any of these close? Infrastructure, vehicles, no. The transport, though, I took from this vehicle, so that worked out all right. Streetwise. All right. So does Streetwise tie into infrastructure? And it kind of doesn't. I got to change these ones, too, because I was kind of using placeholder text out of the old Traveler game for my homebrew campaign, but I'm going to set this thing up to actually maybe be able to sell it as an independent thing, in which case I need to not use intellectual property from another game, because that would be bad. A lot of pictures for infrastructure of like clover-leafed highways, which sort of corresponds to this. Interesting. All right, so let's start there. I don't really have a good version of that. I think, oh gosh, what a mess. Oh, interestingly, I might be able to use the technology lines. In fact, I should use the technology lines. These are a little thinner. These are 15. Oh, 7.5. Even better. Yeah, all right, cool. So let's, if I can clear the deck here a little bit. Let's get... So these are going to be... I've got the corporate tags and the sector tags. I'm very lip smacky today, I just realized. And then sector, corporate... generic tags, I guess. All right. These will get redone, and then that whole skill list will get revised, probably. Oh, that did. Oh, yeah, because it's arced. Cool, 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 cool. All right. So let's get all that down here. Oh my goodness. All right. And let's drag that over here for reference. Okay. So we're going to take these little doodads, and we're going to keep this size because I think they're the same as this, hopefully. We want them to match. 7.5. 7.5. All right. So, hey, however many minutes in, we have a lesson, sort of. Creative tip, if you want to call it. You want to have... Everything needs to look like it's coming from a larger universe, or a universe that's cohesive, tied together. These large green circles obviously help that with that quite a bit. Your symbology, though, when you can sort of reuse elements, I think is good. This is technology, the technology sector. So these little circuity doodads, I think, will serve with that just fine. I'm going to use the little circuity doodads now to try to create the infrastructure sector, and I'm going to try to emulate highways, like a highway cloverleaf. And the similarity of the thickness of lines and kind of the grid is going to make these two things feel tied together more so than if things are tied together. You don't necessarily have to really drill down into the subtext of something. People do, and you could. It's a worthy exercise. At the same time, with any creative thing, film and books and music is even more so than just sort of like visual art. People bring their own experiences into it, and their own prejudice and their own thoughts and prayers and everything else. They oftentimes, second part of this, humans are very good at creating patterns. I'm not saying we're very good at discovering patterns, though we kind of are. We're really good at creating patterns, and that distinction is important. It's why you have things like astrology and numerology and people that believe we didn't land on the moon. All of those things come from our ability, our natural ability to want to create patterns. When we see 3 or 4 things, we want to somehow tie those things together. We're not very good, obviously, at critical thinking, although that can be, educated, but we're not very good at educating people right now either. So, that little rant aside, visually, you could say that technology is, the energy and the data information runs along these information highway, superhighway. And then I'm going to create an infrastructure over here of highways, actual highways. You may have already reached that conclusion. But that's not something I sat down here even before I started this video. That came to me, you saw it happen. You saw me find this graphic on another thing and go, hey, I could use that to create this. And then I looked online and I found pictures of cloverleaf highways. And also I'm honestly a little bit lazy. Like, hey, if I can recycle or repurpose stuff and it looks good, let's do that. That's sometimes how the creative process works, right? It's not all some kind of mystery. It's not all some kind of magical epiphany. Sometimes it is. But yeah, sometimes you're just like, man, I don't feel like doing something from scratch. I'm going to look up some shit online, and then if you have a fundamental understanding of your project, a handle on your project, so to speak, that's what'll do it, right? If you have to be in that mindset. If I was thinking about what cigar I'm going to smoke this afternoon, which I kind of am, but no, if I was thinking about that, or if I was thinking about what I'm going to eat in an hour, that kind of thing, then these things might not have, come to me that way. I'm typing in highway overpass intersection complicated because I want to find like one of the more complicated ones. There's one in, this has got to be China. Most extreme road junction. I'm not going to try to pronounce what it is because that would go awry. Now I'm just trying to find a pattern based on real life that also is sort of aesthetically pleasing without it just being the base like cloverleaf. Although, I mean, the cloverleaf is the base set, right? So maybe the identifiableness of the cloverleaf outweighs the overly complicated. Let's begin. All right. I'm going to keep this as a stroke right now. When I get down to the actual part of it, I may turn it into an expand it into an outline like these are basically. These started as strokes and then turned into not strokes. All right, so what's going on here? Okay, I might keep this simple. So let's grab 4 little ones. And then, because we want to maintain visual symmetry, not sure if that was me or Illustrator, honestly. I feel like it was probably a little of both, but all right. This should be 3. Oh no, it's going to be less than that. Oh yeah. I'm going to have it go, so it's not going to matter. Okay, cool. I was going to have it go outside like the electronic one does anyway. All right, so we do that many that way. And we do maybe 2 vertical. The vertical ones, I'll make those 15. Okay. Fine. It's scaling, the scale is locked there, so It's changing the other dimension, even though it doesn't need to. There we go. And then those I think are probably already the right distance, but let's just do that. Oh, there we go. Never mind. I was thinking of making them further apart from each other, but I don't think I will. Control C to group, or Control G to group, Control G to group. I'm doing that so that I can do this. Boom. All right, and there's our base. Now there's an argument for creating a little space here so we can actually read this as a line going through this way. I also have my expanded kind of color palette here. So there's also maybe a mild argument for being like, hey, let's use that. Just slightly different color. But I don't like that. That might be what it is right there. Well, all these other ones are sort of silhouette-y too, so let's see what this looks like in place. Yoink. Oop. Don't need it on these bottom ones, that's for sure. And then what happens if I take it off? I think that's going to be fine. All right, and then let's grab this. Now these clover leaves aren't anywhere close to symmetrical, but did that scale? Didn't scale. Oh. That's interesting. Being outside the... Oh, that's right. Oops. Dunk. Forgot I'm doing monochromatic. If possible. Very simplified cloverleaf. I could remove that section actually. Well, actually, yep. I think that's it. All right. You only wondered why I reversed out of that thing that I'd already done. I'm destroying work. It's because this isn't set yet. So... Yep. Now we got to figure out how. Okay, so yeah, there we go. A lot of times I change the color of things and then change them back. So this is awkward because this is supposed to be 15, right? Or 7.5? That's 7.5. This stroke is supposed to be 7.5, and yet they don't. Oh, they are, maybe. There we go. Yeah, that's in the middle. Okay, cool. I'm not going to get a smart guide right here, unfortunately. Which means I might have to do the expansion thing, but I don't want to. Well, maybe I can do. Oh, I know. Let's try this. Okay, so now that that's done. Object, ooh, expand, fill and stroke, bonk. Okay, so now that's lined up here. Now I get to futz around with this a little bit. Let's see if I can do some hyper zoom here. All right, so that is set. I don't know, I wish I could lock an axis, because the whole like holding down the shift key thing that's supposed to work doesn't really work very well. Yeah, see, that's still not snapped to it, which is just as aggravating. But it's probably within like 1/100th of a fucking inch. All right, so let's do this. Let's do that. Meow. Yeah, no one's going to notice that at 400 pixels, which is why it was dumb for me to mess around with it for that long, but what are you going to do? There. The rest of these should be relatively easy. There's several different ways you can do this. So let's you could do this, which is Control or Shift Alt drag to basically create a copy, drag it along the horizontal axis, and you grab it, flip it around, and then drag it back to this horizontal axis thing again, and go through the little fiddly bits that I went through on this other side. All right, that's one way. Another way is to set up a rotation point in the middle. So basically Control C to copy it, Control F to put the copy in front. So now they should be stacked. Yep, see, we got a stacked copy, and the stacked is the highlight. Then you grab this little rotation tool, and unfortunately there's not going to be like a good rotation-y place, because normally you could go out like you see where these two things are lined up, and if it gave me some type of smart guide thing, then I could go there, and then I could just rotate them around that, except that doesn't work, right? So then, yeah, that's what I thought. Redo. Redo. Oh, all right, back me up. I just kept backing up. There. The other one, I mean, what I would actually do is try to make a rotation spot. Yeah, maybe it will work actually. So let's do that. Control F. Cool. And then let's create a rotation spot right in the center. All right. Perfect. That's the easier way to do it. Provided you do it all right off the bat instead of dick around like I did. All right, so now I don't know that there's anything else that would make that read as highway infrastructure more. A lot of cloverleafs have the little highway that kind of goes from here to over here somewhere, but there's not really room for that. And these two now look kind of tied together, and these two look somewhat tied together. Though I wonder if this, in this symbol, if I combine, if this little governmental thing was in this kind of shape, that might be too close and confusing. So I think I'm going to be okay with that for now. And then I really like this little globe thing that I created, but unfortunately it's not good for what I want it for. All right, so let's move that down to here. Center it. Let's make sure we got our reduce thing here. 225. And then forgot to flip on the thing like you do. All right, there we go. So now we have large versions to put things on top of and little versions to put on top of skills and other things. And then the next step for me will be combining them into little combinations or highlights for things. I think I kind of need to do that for maybe some roll tables or something, but I might not worry about that right now. I might move on, which the moving on would be kind of redoing some of the skills and figuring out if there's a way to integrate this and like how many of these tags could you incorporate on a thing? Or it's creating, so my generic tag list, which has all those other, the ones that, let's see, there's my PDF here. I'll just show you. All right, so I now have a document that has these tags and these tags. Careers I've already done. Those are somewhere on a different document. And then skills I'll be doing last. So do I basically create all of these tags, some of which would be derivative of the ones that I created, I guess. So that's the next decision. But I'm going to try to keep these shorter than I have in the past. And in that spirit, we're going to end it up now. We're going to end it now. I'm going to try to, I don't know about this week, but at some point start live streaming on like Twitch and then maybe eventually Patreon so that I'm just working on stuff. I think I've talked about this before. Sorry about that. That was my pen hitting the microphone. I think I've talked about this before, but what I'm going to try to do is just be working live on some days where people could theoretically drop stuff into the chat or just hang out and do their own work type of thing as opposed to more of this kind of semi-formalized thing. Regardless, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting us, and I'll see you next time.